Hello and welcome to this first look exploring session looking at Sapientia by Hrotsvitha, translated by Christabel Marshall as Christopher St. John in the early 20th century. This text is technically going just within copyright, so we're leaning heavily into fair use, fair dealing in terms of a text that we're reading and discussing here. Should any right holders wish us to take this down, we will happily do so, but this is primarily for educational purposes to discuss what the text is doing. By the nature of the translation at the time when it was written, and I've certainly noticed some commentary suggesting that maybe it's a few liberties have been taken in some of the spin in terms of what the text is doing, but we can only look at what we're looking at in terms of the translation that we have. The original plays, good century, millennium old. So these are as early as we go, and a bit of a stretch goal for us. We don't generally do things in translation, as it were. We usually do things in English as they come to us. But there might be some more Latin texts that we will look at in the future in translation. That is a thing that might happen to get a better sense of how drama evolved and was shaped. To work our way through this last of the plays that we have been looking at from her writings, we have reading today Sapientia. The title character is
Liza. Hi, it's me in London. Hi.
Reading Hadrian and hopefully briefly Charity early in the play is...
Hi, I'm Olga.
Reading Antiochus and Hope early in the play is...
Hi, I'm here. I hope. In part. I just had dinner and it was very filling, so I'm just kind of like zoned out a bit. It's fine.
That's fine.
Oh my gosh.
You did not need to know.
What did you have for dinner?
It was just soup, but it's like
Oh my gosh, soup.
Yeah.
Bringing us back to the matter at hand. Discuss soup. We could turn this into a soup video session. I'm your host, Robert Crighton. I'll be reading Faith, and I will also fill in for Hope and Charity if an additional reader who we're expecting to pop in a little later does not appear. So I will fill in those gaps. I may end up talking to myself if that happens. But without further ado, we will dive into this text. Content warnings will be in the show description. We have been burnt before. These are often quite dark plays. And so we'll dive into scene one. And again, in terms of the dramaturgy as well, the way scenes flow into each other, I don't know whether the scene designations are authentic from the original text. But anyway, enter Antiochus and Hadrian.
My Lord Emperor, what desire has your servant but to see you powerful and prosperous? What ambition, apart from the welfare and peace and greatness of the state you rule? So when I discover anything that threatens the Commonwealth or your peace of mind, I try to crush it before it has taken root.
In this you show discretion, Antiochus. Our prosperity means your advantage. Witness the honors that we never tire of heaping on you.
Your Grace's welfare is so dear to me that I do not seek to disguise what is hostile to your interests, but immediately bring it to your notice and denounce it.
Do you praise yourself for this? If you withheld such information, you would be guilty of treason to our imperial majesty.
I have never been disloyal.
We do not question it. Come, if you have discovered some new danger, make it known to us.
A certain alien woman has recently come to this city with her 3 children.
Of what sex are children?
They are all girls.
And you think that a handful of women threaten danger to the state?
I do, and very grave danger.
Of what kind?
A disturbance of the peace.
How?
What disturbs the peace and harmony of states more than religious differences?
We grant you that. The whole Roman Empire witnesses to the serious troubles they can cause. The body politic is infected with the corpses of slaughtered Christians.
This woman of whom I speak is urging the people of this country to abandon the religion of their fathers and embrace the Christian faith.
But have her words any effect?
Indeed, they have. Our wives hate and scorn us to such an extent that they will not deign to eat with us, still less share our beds.
This is a real danger, I admit.
You must protect yourself.
That stands to reason. Let the woman be brought before me, and I will examine her and see what can be done.
You wish me to summon her?
I have said it.
Yes, exit Hadrian. And we'll pause there as we sort of get a sense of the style. It's a fairly bold writing style. Here is the thing is the thing. And then every so often you sort of get these little moments. You wish me to summon her. I yes. Yes, oddly enough, I did. And yeah, it's this question of the nature of the danger. This is not a danger of, people coming in with weapons or coming in. This is a question of danger of ideology being spread here, and that it's spreading to their wives. That they won't eat with us. They're not going to eat with us. Still less share our beds. Thoughts, Liza? I forget how many of us have been here for this particular playwrights before, because it's been a little while since we looked at her plays earlier. Liza, any thoughts?
Well, yeah, I've been in quite a few of the Hrotsvitha sessions, and which would make a very good album title, but they yeah, it's hard to tell if it's her or the translator, but something of Hrotsvitha's voice must come through in this very matter-of-fact tone. You know, and yet it's not without grace. The exposition in that first scene is handled maybe a little more gracefully than some other plays we've seen. It's two men talking about a group of women. That is, and Antiochus introduces the topic of an alien woman, a foreign woman, who has come with her 3 children. And as you said, Rob, it's if the Hadrian says, what sex are the children? It's not, if she'd had sons, it might have been a threat of violence. 3 sons, but no, she has 3 daughters. And, what disturbance can they cause? Well, they can talk to other women. And this is sort of, they've quite handily shown a reflexive movement of patriarchal authority when women start escaping its control. But we shall see anon what happens.
Yes, and I mean it's a good what disturbs the peace of harmony in states more than religious differences. I grant you that. This shall we say this is an understatement. And we're still hundreds of years away from the Reformation, so it's that's not even a on the horizon per se. And yeah, so there's there's that sort of sense of things flying around. Eric.
I like how Antiochus' line about they will not deign to eat with us or share our beds is kind of like, it could sort of be used, like you can see it easily being in like Lysistrata or something, which is like the other end of the spectrum, obviously. But yeah, it just feels quite amusing as a thought. And also
yes, because it's the Lysistrata at the end, but it's the deigning to eat with you as well. I mean, it's the that level of social shunning that they're playing with. Okay, any other thoughts? Otherwise, we will move into scene 2. Hadrian has exited, and again, this is where the flow of how this works. We've got the impression that it's almost like the action just sort of flows around, so that there aren't necessarily formal exits. Maybe they're moving to a different area of whatever religious institution these may have been staged at. We do not know for certain that they were. And yeah, see what happens. So scene 2, enter Sapientia to Antiochus.
Foreign woman, what is your name?
Sapientia.
The Emperor Hadrian orders you to present yourself at the palace.
I'm not afraid to go. I have a noble escort in my daughters, nor do I tremble at the thought of meeting your scowling emperor face to face.
It is the way of you Christian rabble to defy authority.
We acknowledge the authority of him who rules the world. We know that he will not let his subjects be vanquished.
Not so much talk, to the palace.
Go before and show us the way. We will follow you.
Scene 3. Antiochus and Sapientia, with faith, hope, and charity, travel to Hadrian.
That is the emperor you see there, seated on his throne. Be careful what you say to him.
The word of Christ forbids us to take thought as to what we ought to say. His wisdom is sufficient for us.
Are you there, Antiochus?
At your service, my lord.
Are these the women whom you have arrested on account of their Christian opinions?
Yes, lord.
I'm amazed at their beauty. I cannot help admiring their noble and dignified manner.
Waste no time in admiring them, my lord. Make them worship the gods.
It would be wiser to ask it as a favor to me at first, then they may yield.
That may be best. This frail sex is easily moved by flattery.
Noble matron, if you desire to enjoy my friendship, I ask you in all gentleness to join me in an act of worship of the gods.
We have no desire for your friendship, and we refuse to worship your gods.
You will try in vain to rouse my anger. I feel no indignation against you. I appeal to you and your daughters as lovingly as if I were their own father.
My children are not to be cozened by such diabolical flattery. They scorn it, as I do.
Yes, and laugh at it in our hearts.
What are you muttering there?
I was speaking to my daughters.
I judge from appearances that you are of noble race, but I would know more. To what country and family you belong, your name?
Although we take no pride in it, we come of noble stock.
That is easy to believe.
My parents were princes of Greece, and I am called Sapientia.
The splendor of your ancestry is blazoned in your face, and the wisdom of your name sparkles on your lips.
You need not waste your breath on flattering us. We are not to be conquered by fair speeches.
Why have you left your own people and come to live here?
For no other reason than that we wish to know the truth. I came to know more, to learn more of the faith which you persecute, and to consecrate my daughters to Christ.
Tell me their names.
The eldest is called Faith, the second Hope, the youngest Charity.
How old are they?
What do you say, children? Shall I puzzle his dull brain with some problems in arithmetic?
Do, mother, it will give us joy to hear you.
As you wish to know the ages of my children, O Emperor, Charity has lived a diminished, evenly even number of years. Hope, a number also diminished but evenly uneven. And Faith, an augmented number, unevenly even.
Your answer leaves me in ignorance.
That is not surprising, since not one number but many come under this definition.
Explain more clearly, otherwise how can I follow you?
Charity has now completed 2 Olympiads, Hope 2 Lustras, and Faith 3 Olympiads.
I'm curious to know why the number 8, which is 2 Olympiads, and the number 10, which is 2 Lusters, are called diminished. Also, why the number 12, which is made up of 3 Olympiads, is said to be augmented.
Every number is said to be diminished, the parts of which, when added together, give a sum which is less than the number of which they are parts. Such a number is 8. For the half of 8 is 4, the quarter of 8 is 2, and the eighth of 8 is 1. And these added together give 7. It is the same with 10. Its half is 5, its fifth part 2, its 10th part 1, and these added together give 8. On the other hand, a number is said to be augmented when its parts, added together, exceed it. Such, for instance, is 12. Its half is 6, its third 4, its fourth 3, its sixth 2, its 12th 1, and the sum of these figures 16. And in accordance with the principle which decrees that between all excesses shall rule the exquisite proportion of the mean, that number is called perfect, the sum of the parts of which is equal to its whole. Such a number is 6, whose parts, a third, a half, and a sixth, added together come to 6. For the same reason, 28, 496, and 8,000 are called perfect.
And what of the other numbers?
Oh, they're all either augmented or diminished.
And that evenly even number of which you spoke?
That is one which can be divided into 2 equal parts, and those parts again into 2 equal parts, and so on in succession until we come to indivisible unity. 8 and 16, and all numbers obtained by doubling them are examples.
Continue. We have not heard yet of the evenly uneven number.
One which can be divided by 2, but the parts of which after that are indivisible. 10 is such a number, and all others obtained by doubling odd numbers. They differ from the evenly even numbers, because in them only the minor term can be divided, whereas in the evenly even the major term is also capable of division. In the first type, 2, all the parts are evenly even in name and in quantity, whereas in the second type, when the division is even, the quotient is uneven and vice versa.
I'm not familiar with these terms, and divisors and quotients alike mean nothing to me.
When numbers of any magnitude are set down in order, the first set down is called the minor term, and the last the major. When in making a division, we say by how many the number is to be divided, we give the divisor. But when we enumerate how many there are in each of the parts, we set forth the quotient.
And they're unevenly even numbers?
They, like the evenly even, can be halved, not only once, but sometimes twice, thrice, and even 4 times, but not down to indivisible unity.
Little did I think that a simple question as to the age of these children could give rise to such an intricate and unprofitable dissertation.
It would be unprofitable if it did not lead us to appreciate the wisdom of the Creator and the wondrous knowledge of the Author of the world, who in the beginning created the world out of nothing and set everything in number, measure, and weight, and then, in time and the age of man, formulated a science which reveals fresh wonders the more we study it.
I had my reasons for enduring your lecture with patience. I hope to persuade you to submit.
To what?
To worshipping the gods.
That we can never do.
Take warning. If you are obstinate, you will be put to the torture.
It is in your power to kill the body, but you will not succeed in harming the soul.
The day has passed and night is falling. This is no time to argue. Supper is ready.
Let these women be taken to the prison near our palace and give them 3 days to reflect.
Soldiers, see that these women are well guarded and given no chance of escape.
And they exit, the women guarded. This episode of Christian Martyrs is sponsored by the numbers 6. I had forgotten this strain of Rosita's writing, where she'll suddenly do a TED talk on the nature of something. We had this with music, I recall, and we've had it in something else as well, where it's just like, let me talk to you about maths. And it starts with, riddle me this. It's just like, I just love Hadrian's, and then just the way Hadrian at the end just goes, I let you lecture me because I was hoping to change your mind to the whole worshipping gods thing. There's so much here that I'm fascinated by. Thoughts of the room, Eric?
Didn't we also, I mean, like you said, the previous TED talk was about music, but I think this is basically the same thing. It's like it uses the same units, I think, of division, but I'm not entirely sure. And I think this is like sort of divisions that maybe exist in religious music / Byzantine music. I'm not entirely sure.
Well, music is mathematical in many respects. So I think you're right. It probably comes from the same sort of learning that she has, and that there is a didactic nature to these plays, not just in terms of religious didacticism, but in terms of, trying to teach some useful life skills. So I'm expecting a whiteboard to be brought on, and
I don't know how useful are these. Is this can this knowledge be? It's more like entertaining than educational, but if a very specific way of uh, uh, edutainment, sort of. I think we had something a similar piece in Forster's with
Yes.
a big lecture on what was it, geography? I think there was something about music too.
Yeah, there was
I'm not
in
confused.
the book iteration, you
Oh
get
yeah.
these explicit Q&A sessions, which the play picks up on and does a little bit of. I mean,
Yeah. Oh, yes,
the
that was the book, not the play. Right.
yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Um, but even so, they still slightly come out of, is this journey really necessary?
I also wanted to. It made me think that this sort of mathematical games actually are sort of things that we did. My father was a professor of mathematics, so these are the things that we did when I was like preschool, primary school age, and he also enjoyed doing it with my children when they were about the same age. So all this funny numerology. It's actually entertainment for it's quite entertaining for kids at some age.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of that whole thing of, if one car is traveling at X miles an hour and the other one is traveling, which one will get there first, kind of maths things that we would have had younger. I mean, there's all sorts of other things. I mean, it's the way that the children, are so firm, and we will laugh at in our face. What you're saying? Nothing. Um, and yeah, there's sort of these very bold statements of religious certainty from obviously Sapientia, and her at the moment faith is the only one who's spoken. Um, but shall I puzzle their dull brains with some problems in arithmetic? Do, mother, please. Um, I will just note, and there's again a question about the translation, and also about the way certain turns of phrase function. But just also from previous plays by the same author, um, there is potentially some nasty racial politics coming in here. Noble race can mean simply your in terms of if you're of aristocracy or something along those lines. But I say we have had in these plays before quite explicitly racist material, and so I'm inclined not to give this little sequence the benefit of the doubt of going, oh, you are so noble and your ancestry is blazoned on your face. And yeah, so that might not be playing on those kinds of standards, but maybe it is. We won't know until unless we look in the actual
No,
authentic text. But
I wouldn't honestly pay attention to that because even the word race had totally different understanding.
mm,
So it could just mean of the country
mm,
um, more civilized country as opposed to what tribes of uh, tribes traveling here and there across Europe, attacking towns, sort of thing. But it can also so many meanings could be there. It can be can mean her status that she's of
mm.
noble birth.
And it may be that the only reason
Yeah.
I'm flagging up specifically here is just the author has form. So there might be something encoded in that. It's a translation, so it's very difficult to know
Yeah.
precisely how these words are supposed to be weighted. But I'm just flagging up what that might be doing there. Just as I say that you always hope, yes, early women writer, and then you find something really quite unpleasant in places. But yes, and also just the certainty of the Christian zeal here. I'm sure there was another line that leapt out at me. Any other thoughts while I'm hunting for a thing? Uh,
I just like how, I had my reasons for enduring your lecture with patience, and it's like, I hope to persuade you to submit to serve. It just doesn't really, like, he's not very convincing as an emperor, is he?
I
He
don't
just
know.
kind of goes, "You will obey."
Well,
Oh,
I think
okay.
he has been pushed a little bit. I think Hadrian, he goes, I feel no indignation against you. I appeal to you and your daughters as lovingly as if I were their own father. And, she goes, my children are not to be cozened by such diabolical flattery. And it's sort of like, he hadn't got round to, is it diabolical flattery, really?
The lines that jumped out on me is that her connection of her faith with these mathematical games, like the wisdom of creator is in those numbers, encoded in those numbers. What sort of rubbish is that, honestly? Dividing one number on another, dividing it multiple times, and that's the wisdom of our creator. Really?
Well, it's a way that people genuinely used to think about math, that because unlike words, numbers are immutable, and to discover new formulae and new ways in which the world is in harmony with itself is to reveal more of God's creation.
I guess it's more about the excitement of discovery. Oh, these things are so interconnected, and so they are so intricate. That's the pleasure of, oh, now I know something about it.
Yeah.
Very, very, very much. I don't want to say childish. What would be a nicer synonym?
Well, it's making learning fun.
Yes,
it's childlike, I suppose.
Childlike, yes, childlike is better than childish, of course. Yeah,
there's a wonder in it.
But yes, with a fascination of the world.
But it's also interesting to see religion and science so aligned, as opposed to, in later years where the religious institutions would try to stop scientific discoveries being made. This one is like, no, do more math. God wants you to do math.
Yes. Yeah.
And I also just want to flag it, just on a character note, Antiochus, who seems quite food orientated. Because obviously he said earlier, the wives are not eating dinner with us. And then, the day is passing, night's falling, no time to argue, supper's ready. This sort of, and that does speak to the sort of maybe a slightly functional quality to this translation, is that in the original might have had a better flow to it. And it's like, no, here are the thoughts as laid out, and it's not quite crossing the translation barrier, I wonder.
Well, the scene has to end somehow, and I think supper's ready is as good a way as any.
Yeah. Okay, off they go to prison. And yes, so everybody else is your allotted daughters for this scene. I think we can all do that. I'm still Faith, and Olga, your Charity, and Eric, you are Hope. So that should all flow reasonably well for this scene, I think, before we start colliding into ourselves.
Oh, are they really so young? I was confused with all this mathematics. Are they really so young, the girls?
Well, I don't know how young they are in terms of...
The oldest is
12?
Yeah, no, I didn't mean to. In terms of, divine powers in that sense, maybe, we have instances, obviously, of, the idea that Mary and Jesus were supposedly, incredibly wise at a very young age. So that's sort of part of Christian thought at this point. So maybe that's a reflection of that. But yes, maybe a bit young for some of their thoughts. Let's see. Scene 4. Enter Sapientia, faith, hope, and charity into prison.
Oh, my dearest ones, my beloved children, do not let this narrow prison sadden you. Do not be frightened by the threat of sufferings to come.
Our weak bodies may dread the torture, but our souls look forward with joy to the reward.
You are only children, but your understanding is ripe and strong. It will triumph over your tender years.
You must help us with your prayers, then we shall conquer.
This I pray without ceasing, this I implore, that you may stand firm in the faith which I instilled into you while you were infants at my breast.
Can we forget what we learned there? Never.
I gave you milk. I nourished and cherished you, that I might wed you to a heavenly bridegroom, not to an earthly one. I trusted that for your dear sakes I might be deemed worthy of being received into the family of the eternal King.
For his love, we are all ready to die.
Oh, children, your words are sweeter to me than nectar.
When we come before the tribunal, you will see that what courage our love will give us.
Your mother will be crowned by your virginity and glorified by your martyrdom.
Let us go hand in hand to the tyrant and make him feel ashamed.
We must wait till the hour comes when we are summoned.
We chafe at the delay, but we must be patient and exuent. Okay, that's really quite disturbing. Hello, Greg. Welcome. We've just finished scene 4. We are yeah, I mean, because it's one thing for someone to decide that they're going to become a martyr on some level. It's another to go, hey, kids, are you looking forward to dying as a martyr? Isn't that great, kids? It's sort of going, I don't think this is good.
We'll return to the normal Hrotsvitha then, really. Right,
yeah.
Yep.
Oh, it's like, do not let this narrow prison sadden you. Do not be frightened of the threat of sufferings to come. It's like, just don't bring it up. Just maybe just say it's all going to be fine.
Can't we just do some more math?
Distract them from the inevitability of their horrible, horrible deaths. Or I don't know, protect them.
No,
Well,
that won't make any sense to them. They have to do it with being very excited about the death, very consciously and very happily.
Yeah, she never actually asks her children what they want. She's just like, we're all going to die.
Yeah. Let us go hand in hand to the tyrant, make him feel ashamed. That's my favorite line from that scene. Just make him think about make him feel bad for killing us. Yeah.
Well, I guess also it's like he will sit in the corner and think about what he's done. I mean, it could be that, or just like, I just like the idea that they're just gonna throw more math at him.
Yeah, you missed all the maths, Greg. There was some great maths. I absolutely paid attention to all of it, and I can answer questions later.
I was going to say, if the time period we're in, Sylvester II was Pope, or will be Pope quite shortly, and he was the first Pope to write lots of mathematical treatises. So it's all his fault. Blame him.
Yeah. Well, this previous scene, it would be funny if only it were. But sadly, I have just met a mother who was talking with real excitement about dedicating children to God in real life in 21st century. So those sort of things do still happen, shockingly. So it's not so funny.
Like dedicating them to God, meaning like they will.
No,
be
of course, not meaning sacrificing them, but still, there's some part of her that is longing to the idea of her children's life to be dedicated to God only.
So basically, monks and nuns and things.
I don't know exactly, but yeah.
Wow.
Didn't go into a lot of details, but yeah, the very idea, the very longing in mother's mind.
Right. Okay. Greg, now that you're with us, you will be Hope, Charity, and Matrons. Because luckily you've arrived just as everyone would have to start talking to themselves. So hopefully this will work. You might talk to yourself occasionally, Greg, but I don't think you will, because of where the play goes with the parts that you have there. It's not going to go well. Anyone who's got any awkward feelings about where this is going and want to duck out now, this might be a time to go to our lovely audience. These plays don't go well. Okay, scene 5. Enter Hadrian and Antiochus in the palace 3 days later. That's probably editorial. I suspect that's not original.
Antiochus, bring the Greek prisoners before us.
Step forward, Sapientia. The Emperor has asked for you and your daughters.
Enter Sapientia, Faith, Hope, and Charity.
Walk with me bravely, children, and persevere with one mind in the faith. Think only of the happiness before you, of the martyr's palm.
We are ready, and he is with us, for whose love we are to be led to death.
The 3 days' respite which of our clemency we granted you is over. If you have profited by it, obey our commands.
We have profited by it. It has strengthened our determination not to yield.
It is beneath your dignity. It is beneath your dignity to bandy words with this obstinate woman. Have you not yet had enough of her insolence and presumption?
Am I to send her away unpunished?
By no means.
What then?
Address yourself to the little girls. If they defy you, do not spare them because of their tender years, but have them put to death. That will teach their obstinate mother a lesson.
I will do as you advise.
This way you will succeed.
Faith, there is the venerated statue of the great Dinah. Carry a libation to the holy goddess, and you will win her favor.
What a foolish man the Emperor must be to give such an order.
What are you muttering there? Behave yourself and do not laugh.
How can I help laughing? Such a lack of wisdom is ludicrous.
Whose lack of wisdom?
Why, yours.
You dare speak to the Emperor so?
I speak the truth.
This is not to be endured.
What is it but folly to tell us to insult the creator of the world and worship a bit of metal?
This girl is crazy. A raving lunatic. She calls the ruler of the world a fool.
I have said it, and I am ready to repeat it. I shall not take back my words as long as I live.
That will not be long. You deserve to die at once for such impudence.
I wish for nothing better than death in Christ.
Enough of this. Let 10 centurions take turn in flaying her with scourges.
She deserves it.
Most valiant centurions, approach and wipe out the insult which has been offered us.
That is the way.
Ask her now, Antiochus, if she will yield.
Faith, will you now withdraw your insults to the Imperial Majesty and promise not to repeat them?
Why now?
The scourging should have brought you to your senses.
These whips cannot silence me, as they do not hurt at all.
Cursed obstinacy! Was there ever such insolence?
Although her body weakens under the chastisement, her spirit is still swollen with pride.
Hadrian, you are wrong. It is not I who am weakening, but your executioners. They sweat and faint with fatigue.
Antiochus, tell them to cut the nipples off her breasts. The shame will cow her.
I care not about the means, so long as she's forced to yield.
You have wounded my pure breast, but you have not hurt me. And look, instead of blood, a stream of milk gushes from my wounds.
Put her on a gridiron, and let fire be placed beneath so that she may be roasted to death.
She deserves a terrible death for her boldness in defying you.
All you do to cause me suffering is a source of bliss to me. I am as happy on this gridiron as if I were a little boat at sea.
Bring a brazier full of pitch and wax, and place it on the fire. Then fling this rebellious girl into the boiling liquid.
I will leap into it joyfully of my own accord.
So be it.
I laugh at your threats. Look, am I hurt? I am swimming merrily in the boiling pitch. Its fierce heat seems to cool me as the morning dew.
Antiochus, what can we do with her?
She must not escape.
She shall be beheaded.
That seems the only way of conquering her.
Now let my soul rejoice and exult in the Lord.
O Christ, invincible conqueror of Satan, give my child faith, endurance to the end.
Holy and dear mother, say a last farewell to your daughter. Kiss your firstborn, but do not mourn for me, for my hands are outstretched to the reward of eternity.
Oh, my daughter, my darling dear, I am not dismayed. I am not distressed. I bid you farewell, rejoicing. I kiss your mouth and eyes, weeping for joy. My only prayer is that beneath the executioner's sword, you keep the mystery of your name inviolate.
Oh, my sisters, born of the same womb, give me the kiss of peace and prepare yourselves for the struggle.
Help us with our prayers. Pray with all your might that we may be found worthy to follow in your footsteps.
Listen to the words of our Holy Mother. She has always taught us to despise the things of earth that may gain those which are eternal.
We shall obey in everything. We want to be worthy of eternal joy.
Come, executioner, do your duty and put an end to my life. And we'll pause there as Faith is beheaded. The absence of some stage directions there were perhaps a blessing rather than a curse. Wow. Yeah, I mean, I you know, a lot of this is not necessarily a spoiler, but just the repeated graphicness of it all, you know, flaying and roasting and all of it. I mean, it's a really interesting question about how much of this would have been performed, assuming a performance did occur, when it is quite so mechanically graphic. Greg.
I'm thinking back. So having read the other plays of this woman. You're right. It's really interesting because for a nun, it does really raise the question of how much this was done on stage. Because she's really good at theoretically having some really gruesome deaths in her plays that don't. It's it's not the ancient Greek. Let's have it all off stage and then some messenger comes on. It appears to be actually done on stage, and it's really interesting. Maybe maybe they had willing victims they just needed to kill off. They emptied the local jail and got the next victim out. But no, sorry, that was the Romans. Whoops.
Yeah. Yes, a secular canonness, I should point out. We do generally call her a nun, but she's not. It's slight variation there. But yeah, in terms of potentially this is designed to be performed by nuns or people heavily involved in that institution, and yeah, this demonstration, because we've talked about this as her works as very much almost like propaganda vehicles, going here are some lessons about our history for kids, and here is also a lesson about maths while we're here. So it has that sort of that quality to it where we're supposed obviously to be all in with the faith, hope, and charities martyrdom. Eric.
Was it one of the other plays where we had a woman in a cell who was meant to be like sort of the cell was getting smaller and smaller as the play progressed? We sort of like she kind of she basically broke out at like 16 or something and then was returned after years of sinful living.
Oh, Thais.
Yeah, or
yeah.
Was that like a different
the cell didn't get smaller, but I mean, I think they moved her into worse and worse accommodation as time went on. But yeah,
it's sort of the same vibe as this, I feel, except that one was more fun because there was actually a disguise in it, which was kind of hilarious. Whereas this one is more like, okay, this is very, very graphic, and this is actually happening to children. So
yeah, I mean, it really isn't holding off on the reality of, assuming all of this story is true, the reality of this kind of martyrdom, it is horrific. It reminds me of when we did Lydgate's story of Legends of St. George, because of course, we all know the legend of St. George being good. Actually, People in England have got a bloody clue about the story of St. George at all. There was a dragon. And so the first half of it, we're going, oh, this is fun. St. George, he kills a dragon. Isn't that lovely? And then you get to the bit where he's horribly, horribly, horribly slowly killed. And it goes on for half the poem. And you're going, oh, God, no, this is the point. This is the point, and this is what you get from early Christianity as well, when it was fighting for its existence, and these narratives of people dying was so important, and that's slightly alien to most mainstream forms of Christianity.
Well, also,
for some, but
wasn't there a bit about like how it's built on the corpses of like slaughtered Christians or something in the previous scene? So I guess this is just like embodying that in a very direct way, I guess.
Any other thoughts before we move on to the next martyrdom? Okay. Yeah, Eric.
No, I was just gonna say it's like very sort of. I can't help but wonder if I mean, okay, maybe our playwright hasn't actually seen this happen, but she's possibly heard stories of people doing this to actual Christian believers. So that's like how she would. Like, I can't think of any other reason why she would come up with it other than like, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
No, go, Olga.
She definitely didn't come up with this. It certainly circulated all those stories about cruelty, martyrdom, and admiration to the martyrdom, of course. But it's so hugely exaggerated, it just can't be true on this scale. It's absolutely impossible. And I don't know what's the purpose of this exaggeration exactly, and what's the purpose of showing it, writing a theatre play, showing it, because when it's presented like this, it's just totally loses any sense. It becomes I don't know, a folk tale. Quite a lot of folk tales are really very cruel if you think about it, but nobody does think about them and analyze them. It's just event after event of something that is basically very nasty, very cruel, and we just laugh at it. Children just laugh at it, and to children, we just tell it to the children as a bedtime story. So it has this sort of feeling to it.
Well, I mean, we do still construct martyr narratives even today when talking about the issues that people are interested or want to project. So I think that instinct is still there. It's not completely alien to what our lives. It's just the graphic nature of this and telling this story of those who came before to fight for. Now we have a church that is basically omnipresent, but it was built on these foundations. It's a foundation myth. Anyway, let us carry on with the narrative. Faith has been beheaded.
I embrace the severed head of my dead child, and as I cover it with kisses, I praise thee, O Christ, who hast given the victory to a little maid.
Hope, listen to me. Believe me, I advise you with fatherly affection.
What advice do you give me?
I beg you not to imitate your misguided sister. I would not have you undergo the same torture.
Would that I were worthy to imitate her sufferings and so win a reward like hers.
Do not harden your young heart, but give way and burn incense before great Diana. Then I will adopt you as my own child and love you most tenderly.
I should not care to have you for a father, and I want no favours from you. You deceive yourself with vain hopes if you suppose that I shall submit.
Be more careful in your speech, or you will make me angry.
Be angry. What is it to me?
I am amazed, Augustus, that you should tolerate for a moment such insolence from a pert little child. I boil with indignation that she should be allowed such license.
I wish to be merciful to her youth, but I can no longer be indulgent. She shall be punished as she deserves.
I wish that were possible.
Come, lictors, and scourge this little rebel to death with your heaviest rods.
She deserves to feel the full weight of your anger, as she has mocked your gracious clemency.
Here is the only clemency for which I long. Here the only mercy I crave.
Sapientia, what are you murmuring there, standing with uplifted eyes by the body of your dead child?
I am imploring Almighty God to give hope the same firm courage that he gave faith.
Oh, mother, mother, how wonderful are your prayers! Even as you prayed, the uplifted hands of the panting executioners became powerless. I have not felt a twinge of pain.
So you do not mind scourging. We will try some sharper torture.
The most savage and deadly you can invent. The more cruelty you show, the greater will be your humiliation.
Let her be suspended in the air and lacerated with nails until her bowels gush forth and the skin is stripped from her bones. Break her to pieces, limb by limb.
That order is worthy of an emperor. The punishment fits the crime.
Oh, Antiochus, you are as crafty as a fox, but you flatter with the cunning of a chameleon.
Be quiet, you wretch. I thank the gods you will soon not have a mouth to prattle with.
It will not be as you hope. Both you and your master will be put to confusion.
What is this strange sweetness in the air? If I'm not mistaken, a marvelous perfume fills the room.
Oh, Emperor, the torn shreds of my flesh are giving forth a heavenly fragrance to make you admit that you have no power to hurt me by torture.
Antiochus, advise me.
We must think of some other punishment.
Put in the brazier a vessel full of oil and wax and pitch. Bind her and throw her in.
Yes, she will not find it so easy to escape from the Vulcan.
Christ has before now made fire grow mild and change its nature.
Antiochus, what is that sound? I seem to hear a noise like that of rushing waters.
My lord, my lord.
What has happened?
The boiling fire has burst the cauldron. It has overflowed and consumed every man near it. Only the vile witch who caused the disaster has escaped unhurt.
It seems we are worsted.
Yes, we can do nothing.
She must be beheaded like the other.
By the sword only can she be destroyed.
Charity, my dear, my only sister, have no fear of the tyrant's threats, and do not wince at the thought of suffering. Be strong in faith and strive to follow the example of your sisters who are going to before you to the palace of heaven. I am weary of this earth. I do not want to be separated from you even for a short time. Have courage. Stretch out your hands to the palm. We shall be separated only for a moment. Soon, very soon, we'll be shed together in heaven. Soon, soon. Be joyful, mother. Do not grieve for me. You should laugh, not weep to see me die for Christ.
Indeed, I do rejoice, but my joy will be full only when your little sister has followed you, slain in the same way, and when my turn comes, mine last of all.
The Blessed Trinity will give you back your 3 children.
Courage, my child. The executioner comes towards us with drawn sword.
Welcome, sword! But do thou, O Christ, receive my soul driven from its bodily mansion for the confession of thy name.
And Hope is beheaded. So more of the same, basically. Yes, my joy will only be full when your little sister has followed you, slain in the same way. God, Greg,
Giving the plot away. I was going to say, I think we said, I can remember talking about so many things with these plays. I find it interesting you've got the core characters, but there is a sense there must have been other people on, if this was performed, other people on stage. Because she mentions somebody mentions the lictors. Hello, pussycat. Mentions the lictors at one point, which suggests there would have been at least some sort of other people on stage.
Yeah, because we've had all sorts of people who are administering these tortures and guards and assaulted people. So yeah, this is if staged incredibly complex. There's a lot you'd need to add here. There are almost no stage directions. I assume the original probably had no stage directions. I suggest most of these entrances and exits are editorial by the translator. Eric.
Well, also, you wouldn't want to have to do a health and safety assessment on this. Just like in modern times, you would not want to do this. Generally, I think. I mean, it would be a fascinating play, though it kind of just goes downhill. But what I was going to say was the bit about rewards always makes me think about. I mean, especially children talk about reward. It just makes me think of that experiment with the what's it called? I think it's with marshmallows or like muffins or something that they do where they put a kid in a room in front of a plate with a marshmallow and they tell them if you don't eat this immediately, you will get another one. And like they sort of test sort of that kind of responsiveness / discipline / whether they trust adults or not. And yeah, that's what this is making me think of. Marshmallows and kids in rooms eating marshmallows.
And of course, it's sort of extra disturbing in a sense because actually none of these tortures are actually working. You've got to remember, the kids are basically just going, "Hey, this is fine because I'm being protected by the power of Christ." So when someone has a breast removed and milk gushes from it, they're not standing there in pain going, "Oh my God!" They're standing there going, "Yay!" And that's actually more disturbing to me than actually that there's something about this that they keep upping the ante, and then Antiochus is basically going, "They're vampires. They can only be killed by beheading them." It's this is only with the sword can she be destroyed. I was expecting a stake through the heart any second now. I apologize for transposing completely inappropriate text onto this one. But that's just sort of what immediately leapt to my mind at that moment. But yeah, their consternation of they're just not playing by the rules is what's sort of maddening them as well, because they keep talking back. Hope's really rude to the emperor and Faith was rude to the emperor. How dare you? I mean, whew.
So they are basically executed for their very bad upbringing, being very rude.
Yeah, Sapientia, if only you just brought up your children to just be a little more polite, they would have survived.
Which she doesn't want, of course.
No.
Yeah, but they speak truth to power. I mean, that's a powerful thing for kids to do. So to speak. I mean, I assume that's part of the point of this.
It probably is, but it's presented in such a, don't want to say silly, sort of diminished way. Because what they are doing are basically being rude, and what Hadrian is doing is overreacting, suspecting some witchcraft or whatever in them, and then just getting totally out of control. I'm also thinking about how it could be actually staged, and I'm afraid, and the only idea that I have is that it would be again made in some pretty unrealistic way, using puppetry or whatever, perhaps.
We do have the advantage, at least, because this isn't one of our core texts, that we're not under the obligation to produce it. So, which frankly is coming to me as a great relief, because these are very, very difficult plays to do. Liza.
Yeah, I was thinking about, what if the daughters were puppets, or, that would it would make the martyrdom easier to stage for sure. But I was just sort of appreciating the almost comedy of the oops moment where for the second daughter, as for the first, they heat a container of boiling pitch, and but you don't get the same result because the boiling pitch didn't even hurt the first daughter, but you don't get the same result because the boiling pitch bursts and kills all the emperor's men who were near it, and oops, the daughter is unhurt again. So, that's sort of in this very terrible and bleak play that it's just kind of a little moment of comedy. What a day, boy, all my men boiled to death.
Yeah, what are you going to do with these martyrs, eh? What are you going to do? Right, chop off their heads is the solution we have found. So yes, we continue from Hope is beheaded. Sapientia is next.
Oh, Charity, lovely offspring of my womb, the one hope of my bosom, do not disappoint your mother, who expects you to win this last fight. Despise safety now, and you will attain the same glory which shines on your sisters, and like them wear the crown of unspotted virginity.
Support me with your holy prayers, mother. Pray that I may be worthy to share their joy.
Stand fast in the faith to the end, and your reward will be an everlasting holiday.
Now, little Charity, your sister's insolence has exhausted my patience and exasperated me. I want no more long speeches. I shall not waste much time on you. Obey my commands, and you shall enjoy all the good things this love has to offer. Disobey, and evil will fall on you.
I long for the good things, and I will not have the evil.
That pleases me, and you shall profit by it. I will be indulgent and set you an easy task.
What is it?
You shall say, "Great is Diana," that is all. I will not compel you to sacrifice.
I will not say it.
Why?
Because I will not tell a lie. My sisters and I were born of the same parents, instructed in the same mysteries, and confirmed in the same faith. We have the same wish, the same understanding, the same resolution. Therefore, I am never likely to differ from them in anything.
Oh, what an insult to be defied by a mere doll.
Although I am small, my reason is big enough to put you to a shame.
Take her away, Antiochus, and have her stretched on the rack and whipped.
I fear the stripes will be of no use.
Then order a furnace to be heated for 3 days and 3 nights, and let her be cast into the flames.
A mighty man. He cannot conquer a child of 8 without calling in fire to help him.
Go, Antiochus, and see that my orders are carried out.
He may pretend to obey to satisfy your cruelty, but he will not be able to hurt me. Stripes will not wound my body, and the flames will not singe my hair or my garments.
We shall see.
Yes, we shall see.
And exuent on some fashion. Do you need to heat a furnace for 3 days and 3 nights to get it up to a sufficient temperature? I would have thought, half a day, depending on the nature of the construction. I mean, it sounds impressive, but it actually just seems like that's just a waste of fuel, really, isn't
Depends
it?
on the wood, I bet,
Yeah,
and
I would
how
have thought.
good your stokers are, and
Yeah, but basically, once you've got it up, there's a maximum temperature you can get it up to, and I don't think it's going to take 3 days to get it there.
Oh, it's another of those exaggerations, nothing realistic. Just a piece of very dark comedy, it seems.
Yes, because as once again she is refused, and this time they're going to send her off while they have a little chat. Let us move on.
there's definitely a pattern to it, isn't it? You can tell the formulaic.
Well, it is different in the sense that a little bit of time is allowed to elapse here. So it's like we've done it twice in a row. We're going to do something a little bit different with the third daughter. So what's been divided is into scene 6. And again, there's no guarantee that they actually exited at this point. Maybe they just time passes. It's a bit wibbly wobbly, this play. Anyway, Antiochus to Hadrian.
What is wrong, Antiochus? Why have you returned, and with such a dejected air?
When you know the reason, you will be dejected too.
Come, what is it?
That little vixen whom you handed over to me to be tortured was first scourged in my presence, and I swear that not so much as the surface of her delicate skin was grazed. Then I had her cast into the fiery furnace, which glowed scarlet with the tremendous heat.
Enough, come to the point.
The flames belched forth, and 5,000 men were burned to death.
And what happened to her?
You mean to Charity?
Who else?
She ran to and fro, playing in the fierce whirlwind of smoke and flame, and sang praises to her god. Those who watched closely said that 3 men dressed in white walked by her side.
Blush to see her again, as I have not been able to harm her.
She must perish by the sword like the others.
Let us use it then, and without delay.
And again, yeah, just like the overflowing burning pitch, flames belch forth, and 5,000 were burned to death. We get a number as to how many died there. Antiochus, you have returned with such a dejected air. It's like he just sort of keeps coming on, and he's just going,
Well, that didn't bloody work, did it?
we did the burning for 3 days, nothing, and it's like, it's just scared. No, we're tired. I mean, they said earlier, I'm not tired. You're the people scourging me. Look at them; they're really tired. That's what they never say about these kinds of beatings. Is the arm really gets sore after a while. You've got to take these things in shifts. Logistics, man. Logistics. Antiochus is that's his life doing this. And yeah.
Maybe like they're doing something wrong. If the fiery furnace glowed scarlet, then we all know that it's a blue or white flame that does the most damage, right? It is the hottest. So
yeah, but they would struggle to get that level of heat with the burning materials they have, I'm sure. Greg,
only a small aside. Now I've forgotten what book it is. There is a similar death in the Old Testament. The fiery furnace. I don't know.
Daniel.
Daniel, thank you. I was trying to remember then. I was coming. There's a fiery furnace. Where is it?
Well, there's Nebuchadnezzar's fiery furnace, which is a play we have done.
Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego.
Yes, spot the person who hasn't heard that story for a long time. I just, just made me think that would probably reverberate in people's minds at the time, anyway. Yeah, no, oh dear. I haven't got high hopes for anybody in this play yet.
I think it's fair to say with these martyrdom narratives, you're not really expecting there to be a high number of people still walking around at the end. So let's plow on to the end. We've got a few scenes to do, but we'll let them flow. Scene 7, as it's labelled, enter Antiochus, Sapientia, and Charity.
Uncover that obstinate little neck, Charity, and prepare for the sword of the executioner.
This time I do not wish to resist. I am glad to obey.
Now, little one, now we must give thanks. We must exult in Christ. Now I am free from anxiety, for I am certain of your triumph.
Kiss me, mother, and commend my soul to Christ.
May he who quickened you in my womb receive the spirit he breathed into you.
Glory be to thee, O Christ, who has called me to thyself and honored me with the martyr's crown.
Farewell, beloved child, farewell. And when you are united to Christ in heaven, give a thought to the mother who gave you life, even when the years had exhausted her strength.
And Charity dies. We have a new scene or a variation on the scene, maybe a change of location. Enter Sapientia to Matrons.
Noble matrons, gather round me and help me bury the bodies of my children.
We will strew herbs and spices on their little bodies and solemnize their funeral rites with ceremony.
Great is the generosity and wonderful the kindness you show to me and my dead.
We would do anything to relieve your pain.
I know it.
What place have you chosen for their burial?
It is 3 miles outside the city. I hope that is not too far for you.
By no means. We will follow their bodies to the place you have chosen.
And scene 9, they travel to the burial place.
This is the place.
It is well chosen, the very spot to keep the relics of these blessed martyrs.
O earth, I commit my precious little flowers to thy keeping. O earth, cherish them in thy spacious bosom, until they spring forth again at the resurrection more glorious and fair. O Christ, fill their souls with light, and give rest and peace to their bones.
Amen.
I thank you all from my heart for the comfort you have brought me since my loss.
Would you like us to remain here with you?
I thank you no,
Why not?
because your health will suffer if you fatigue yourselves further on my account. Have you not done enough in watching with me 3 days? Depart in peace. Return home happy.
Will you not come with us?
I cannot.
What then is your plan?
I shall stay here in the hope that my petition will be granted, and that what I most desire will come to pass.
What is that petition? What do you desire?
This only, that when my prayer is ended, I may die in Christ.
Will you not let us stay to the end then and give you burial?
As you please. O Adonai Emmanuel, begotten by the divine creator of all things before time began, and born in time of a virgin mother, O thou who in thy dual nature remainest most wonderfully one Christ, the unity of person not being divided by the diversity of natures, nor yet the diversity of natures confounded in the unity of person, to thee let the serene angelic choir singing in sweet harmony with the spheres raise an exultant song. Let all created things praise thee, because thou, who alone with the Holy Ghost art form without matter, by the will of the Father and the cooperation of the Spirit, didst deign to become man, passible like men, yet impassible like God. O thou who didst not shrink from tasting death, and destroyed it by thy resurrection, that none who believe in thee should perish but know eternal life, on thee I call. I do not forget that thou, perfect God yet true man, didst promise that those who for thy sake renounced their earthly possessions would be rewarded an hundredfold and receive the gift of eternal life. Inspired by that promise, thou seest that I have done what I could. Of my own free will, and for thy sake, I have sacrificed the children I bore. Oh, in thy goodness, do not delay the fulfillment of thy promise, but free me swiftly from the bonds of this flesh, that I may see my children and rejoice with them. Grant me the joy of hearing them sing the new song as they follow thee, O Lamb of the Virgin. Let me be gladdened by their glory, and although I may not, like them, chant the mystical song of virginity, let me praise thee, who art not thyself the Father, yet art of the same substance as the Father, with whom and with the Holy Ghost, one Lord of the whole world, one King of all things upon the earth, and in the heights above, and the deeps below, thou dost reign and rule for ever and ever.
O Lord, receive her soul. Amen.
And they exeunt, or
Presumably Sapientia dies.
expires at
Yes.
that moment. But again, I suspect there aren't that many actual stage directions in the original text. I suggest it's just dialogue. It's a lengthy farewell scene there. Let's get some matrons to sort out the burials. Again, this whole text speaks of something that, if it is designed for performance, it's designed to be performed in a space like a church, where you flow from one place to another. Or there are stations and you flow from one station to another, because that sort of makes sense of a lot of these sort of changes of scene or changes of locus as they go from one place to another. And maybe there's musical cues that don't survive in the text as well. So it's all doable, apart from possibly some of the deaths. I don't think they're all quite achievable as stated, but maybe there's a symbolic thing going on there. some of these are more stageable than others. Some of these are perfectly stageable. This is more in the pushing the envelope in terms of what the. I think it's one of those scripts. The writer and director sends it to the studio head, and they go, "I don't think we can afford this, mate. You're gonna have to cut it down." But yeah, it ended pretty much as we expected it. I don't think there were any surprises there. Any final thoughts to throw in about Sapientia and her terrible parenting skills?
I still have a question why they let Sapientia go and bury her children. So now they have nothing to. So, like, they blamed her poor little girls, but they don't blame her at all. Yeah. So, yeah. Okay.
Well, I
go.
think the point of they did state earlier the point of killing the girls was to torment her. So I think her living in torment is the point. The fact that she now expires is perhaps but that was brought up by Hadrian and Antiochus earlier in the play.
Yeah, but not loud enough, I would say. Yeah, so it's easy to forget it, and then so what? Now she just goes. And what kind of God does it make Christ? Honestly.
It's an interpretation. I think we'll stick with that. As I say, it is closer to that period in history. It's 960 odd. So it's a lot closer to that memory of persecution and death. It's a very old text.
Excuse me, is that the date when the original plays were written?
Yeah, she dies 968, I think, off the top of my head. So, these really are in a different universe to most of the stuff we've done. And it is. I mean, it's not within living memory of those kind of persecutions. Hundreds of years have passed, but it is much closer to them then than even the Reformation is. Within this, it's a very early text in that sense. Greg, any final thoughts? Or just about Hrotsvitha, just generally. I think you've done all of them, or most of them.
I find her very interesting, and there is I usually do this at the start, but I wasn't here. There is a podcast called Pontifex, and I can thoroughly recommend it. If anyone wants to know just how messy the Christian Church was up until 1000, it's well worth listening to. That last speech of Sapientia was essentially brewing down all of the schisms during the period. That was essentially trying to tie up all the things that were confused or people didn't believe different things. And I found it very interesting, but to anybody else, it would be very confusing. It would just be totally boring. I didn't spot it quite so much, maybe because I came in halfway, that I find the translation we're using very interesting. I think we said in the previous recordings that this was probably translated by a suffragette sort of character. I think
So the part of one of the various suffrage movements and was writing effectively sort of suffrage pageants and materials as part of that course. So there is this interesting question about again that is there an additional political messaging going on in these specific translations in terms of trying to make portray Hrotsvitha as perhaps closer ideologically to us today. I haven't discovered much of that myself, but I've read that kind of questioning of the nature of the translation. But it's the only translation I had to have.
Translation of at least one of them for what's it? But yeah. Anyway, they're really interesting. I thoroughly enjoyed reading these every year.
Yes, I'm quite glad I don't have to stage them because they are a nightmare, but they're a nightmare because there's something quite terrifying actually about this kind of early Christian text, where because violence is it's so steeped in violence, and that sort of martyr, text that kind of discussion, it's something that I think it's a lot easier to do a morality play or a mystery play or something like those, where there is something that's still on. You can find a connection. I think it's very hard to make a connection with this kind of narrative, because it is so specific and so violent, and that's a problem. Olga, and then Eric.
There's also a huge risk of interpretation. Whichever way you take it, either you go like straightforward, presenting as it is, showing the cruelty of it. It's very disturbing. But there's also a very dark humor there. If you just lean a little bit too much into this dark humor and it becomes just a comedy, I'm not quite sure what it's supposed to be, but so I feel like it's very risky to take this to make this choice. So yeah, I agree with you. I feel relieved that we don't have to stage it.
Yeah, it gets. I mean, when you're talking about that, you can lean into comedy. When Antiochus at one point says that is the way, it suddenly went very Life of Brian in my mind, of just going that crucifixion. There was that moment of just the way Antiochus, that line landed. I don't think that was the intention. But it just sort of landed in that way of just going. Yeah, it's the boldness of the lines, that they're very straightforward. They're down the line. This is this thing happening now, that makes them pathetic a lot of the time, and land in a slightly awkward fashion.
Still, it somehow does not have the same vibe as the Life of Brian. So no, I wouldn't take it that far.
No, but that's the
yeah. But there is
I kind of think you could do it that way.
Humor.
You'd just be very twisted if you did.
Okay, excellent.
Eric.
I'm trying to remember what I was going to say, but yes, stuff. Yeah, no, it's just, I don't know, it feels very traumatizing to try and stage that, but also I don't know, trying to do that through the filter of like something that is like more than a millennium old, plus like the translation, it just
I'd say it, as an intellectual exercise, it's very interesting, and I'm quite interested in how it sort of fits within our ideas of early drama. Not just early English drama, but just early drama on the other side of the classical repertoire. And how that fits into the way plays are being written, and which are more mystery play like that are coming into being around now. Liza, do you have any final thoughts?
Yeah, well, I was thinking of, first of all, that Sapientia never expresses, she doesn't ever seem to express any sadness over her children's deaths or any empathy with them being tortured. She just, she sends them to their executions as though they were going to their piano recital, and when Charity is about to get killed, she says something like, I found it, now I am free from anxiety, for I am certain of your triumph. And it's like the only thing she was anxious about was that was that they would recant and maybe worship the gods. So there are a couple of plays that this play reminds me of, and there's a play by George Bernard Shaw called Androcles and the Lion, where the whole a lot of the last act is a bunch of Christian prisoners being offered the choice to offer incense to the gods, and the person, I forget if it's the emperor or just their henchman.
Yes, it takes place in the Colosseum, the last act, and yes, they are offered either to fight on the arena or do something. Yeah, but that one is definitely a comedy, and George Bernard Shaw is atheist.
Yeah.
was an
Yeah.
atheist, and yes, it's definitely a comedy.
Yeah.
But
And
but you are right. I also thought about it at some point.
yeah, and in that one they say, oh, just put a bit of incense on the altar. You don't even need to mean it, and they sort of argue about rituals and significance and belief and stuff. But the other play I thought of was a play from the 1980s, which is mostly a monodrama. It's a play by, oh God, was it Christopher Durang, called Sister Mary Ignatius Explains It All for You. And it's a lot of it is a monologue by a character who's a nun, and she's talking about like martyrdom and torture with great enthusiasm, and then some other characters who were children when she taught in a Catholic school came and were like, you screwed us up, and she was like, I don't care. But so it's a bit like that.
Right. Well, we have come to the end of our of this little side hustle off our main mission of looking at early English drama. We've gone off piece to fill in this little gap. I say we may do some other translations in the future, but I say it's not our core activity. And it's been very interesting, if I say quite traumatizing every so often. All that remains is to thank all the wonderful readers for all their wonderful reading. Thank you very much, everyone, and goodbye. Do not disappoint your mother.